the Bruins take down the Flyers 3-2 to now win 7 of 8. I'm Evan Marinofsky here with Conor Ryan of Boston Sports Journal. And Conor, it's one of those games where you know the story going into it, and the story stays the same throughout the game and after. And that was the return of one Tuukka Rask.
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah, that about sums it up.
Did you know that Tuukka Rask was starting tonight? He returned, the big return?
I heard whispers about it. It's good to see him out there. All joking aside, great to have him back. As advertised, I think we talked about on our podcast earlier today that if he showed signs of rust, if he let in 3-4 goals in a game like this, you kind of roll with the punches. You accept it for what it is for a guy who hasn't played in 218 days. But, I mean, he was solid. I mean, he wasn't taxed early on and really kind of brought it on as the game went on, made clutch saves at the right opportunities, which you haven't really seen from the Bruins goaltending this year, right, in terms of those like key saves at key moments. He gets those 2 breakaway stops against Farabee and Atkinson, and then in the third period really kind of locks it down there. So in terms of what your expectations were for Rask, considering the long layoff, the rust, not getting down to Providence, have to be encouraged by what you saw from him out there.
It's funny. I saw some people saying, well, the breakaway stops, they were easy. And it's like he makes them look easy. That's why he's so good. He makes these stops look easy. He's so in position. And I think, you mentioned it, the big stops. And also I think he just looked calm out there. Like if you would just drop me in from Mars and had watched this game, I would not have picked Tuukka Rask as the guy who was playing his first game all season. He looked the same way he always has. And the 2 goals weren't his fault, right? The one was a deflection off Atkinson. The other was just a complete defensive breakdown off the rush. Tough look for McAvoy, who didn't have a great game, by the way.
He was not very good. You don't really, have that as a post-game kind of takeaway most days, that McAvoy had a rough game. But, yeah, really rough game for him. And you've kind of seen over the last couple of days, he was fighting something for the last week or so now. And this is kind of one of the issues where you've got this schedule where you don't really have 2-3 days off in a row now. You kind of go right back at it on Saturday against a Nashville team that's 12-2-1. Going into it, so not a lot of rest, and considering the state of the Bruins decor right now, probably going to need him out there.
Yes, you will need McAvoy out there. And again, you had,
Lewington, who was as advertised in terms of dropping the gloves, but yeah, it's not a great, considering the fact that, Rask got the win and the Bruins, held them off. Also encouraging considering it wasn't the best decor out there to kind of absorb, the potential rust or mistakes you could have seen from Rask in his first game back out there.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, one of the guys I thought was good, and Kevin Paul Dupont asked Cassidy about this after the game, was Earl Vakanainen. Vakanainen had a lot of big minutes late, especially in that 5-on-3. Good puck movement throughout. I mean, obviously you played with McAvoy, so you get the big boost, but you do play against the other team's top players. Seeing Vakanainen out there do well, that's been something the Bruins have been looking for now for years. This is maybe, I don't know if it's Vakanainen's best game ever, because he had a good game last night as well. So the games are building up for Vakanainen where you're starting to see that Zaboral effect, right? You're sort of starting to see him fit in a bit. Granted, it's a small sample size. The other story from tonight was David Pastrnak. Not many nights is a David Pastrnak hat trick the second biggest story, but tonight it was. He was terrific. Same thing as Brad Marchand was the night before. Scores the 2 quick goals in the first period, then waits till the second to score. Lets people have the hats on their head for a little bit longer.
Adds kind of the drama too. He scores I think a minute 45 after Philly tied it, so add a little suspense here before finally delivering. But yeah, I think we've talked about David Pastrnak and maybe the lack of that tangible offensive production we've seen so far. Weren't really concerned about it. Bruce Cassidy wasn't concerned about it. Sooner or later, those pucks are going to start, falling his way, and he's too good of a player to be on a 22-goal pace at one point there. He's too good for that. Now, not to say now all of a sudden, we have to get ready for the 50-goal, campaign or what have you, but he's still a guy that consistently is going to score 30, 40 goals, and he's right on track for that right now. Seems like he's really kind of settled in, especially on that second line with Hall and Haula.
Yeah, and I mean, you saw it on the first goal, the way that line was able to move the puck in the O-zone quickly. It was just, as Pastrnak said after the game, 1 second goal. So that's kind of, I think, what the Bruins are looking for more of. And again, this is 7 goals in 4 games for Pastrnak now. I mean, he's on a tear. It feels like this whole Bruins team is on a tear, despite the sloppy play at the end of the game. But again, completely overshadowed by Tuukka Rask, his return, 25 saves, especially those 2 big breakaway stops. For all your Bruins coverage, make sure to follow Conor over here at Boston Sports Journal and on TikTok. There's some interesting Rask TikToks coming. I know. He hasn't even told me. I know.
No comment. We'll see what happens.
It's a surprise for the viewers. Anyways, follow him over at Boston Sports Journal, me over at CLNS Media for all your Bruins hockey content.